Okay, this will be interesting. I'm going to go live on YouTube and Instagram at the same time. See what happens. So I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I'll take questions in regards to training, business, life, whatever you want to ask, and we'll go from there. And this is going to be kind of weird because I am live on Instagram and YouTube, so I don't quite know where to look, but we'll figure it out. It's the quarantine edition, part whatever, 2 on YouTube, and who knows, 8 on Instagram. And we'll see. We'll just kind of go from there and see what happens. If all I'm really doing is experimenting to see how to do this, if it works, and kind of go from there. So enjoy my fat head Toledo hat. Last time I did this on YouTube, I had pizza and Monster. I don't have it today, but I will next time I do it. All right, I'm going to start looking for questions on either. I'm not sure how to get them on the YouTube thing. What's happening? Nothing. Making a video. Okay, can you help me find places to buy Olympic plates? I wish I could. Plates are hard to find. Plates, dumbbells. I'm sure you guys all know this if you're trying to find them. We are a retailer of them, and we are having a hell of a time getting them from our suppliers. And it's harder for us because we are a small business, so the suppliers want to take care of their bigger customers first. And it's so I know how you guys feel that are looking for them because we're kind of in the same boat, but a little worse because we have to sell them to have products to sell. So I will say this, and kind of speculation because nobody really knows for sure. People are selling plates right now ridiculously priced. It is. I hate to say it is what it is, but when the supply and demand is how it is right now, people are selling used plates for a ridiculous amount of money, and that's what they're worth right now. But I do think in time, the people are not going to be able to give them away. So it's kind of how desperate you are for the plates, where if you're super desperate, you're going to have to pay whatever the going rate is. You're going to pay, if you're buying them used right now, you're going to pay a premium. If you're going to buy them from a supplier, I do believe most retailers are going to keep the prices within reason. I do think the next time they start stocking up and becoming available, the prices are going to be higher, but it's not going to be on the retail end. It's not going to be because the retailers are going to try to price gouge anybody, because what on retail, I can tell you exactly what's happening. What's happening is for you to be able to get stock back of things, of the high demand things, bands, plates, stuff like that, is if they're being imported from overseas, you're going to have to, instead of having them delivered via boat, you're going to have to air freight them. And the air freight quotes that we're getting on not plates, lighter weight items, is close to $32,000 a pallet. So yes, that's going to have a big impact. If we have to get them fast, it's going to have a huge impact on price because you can't absorb that kind of price. Or you just don't, and you just keep it the normal freight time, which is going to be 3 months. And so we'll see kind of how it pans out. We will probably absorb and pay the ridiculous price if we know we're going to be able to sell it. So plate wise, we're not going to mess with that because I do think, in my opinion, that the plates are going to. There's a lot of people right now making a mad rush to try to brand their own plates and to bring their own plates over. If they can't do this fast within a month, they're going to end up with fucking warehouses full of plates they can't sell, which is going to be extremely damaging to the bottom line. So I don't know an answer. I mean, if you need them fast, buy them. But if you don't need them that fast, just wait, man. The prices are going to be, normal, soon. And if you wait long enough, the people, like I said, people are going to be giving, wanting to be able to give them away. To give another side of this coin, a lot of the conversations that I'm having with gym owners right now, because a lot of them are not going to open back up again. It's not, I think that a lot of people are thinking that they are, or it might, or they might not open back up. A lot are not going to open. I know this based upon the number of people I'm speaking to. I know a lot of them are simply just, they can't open back up. They're done. So what they're doing right now, with that said, with what they're doing is they are going to start selling their plates and their equipment very soon, because the sooner they can sell it as a gym owner, right now they can get their money back and maybe even more if they sell their stuff now. If they wait and try to sell their stuff, they're not going to, it's going to be worse than what it was if they were to try to close their gym and sell it before all of this happened. So, and before all this happened, for a gym to be able to close their doors and sell their stuff, they would get pennies on the dollar. Right now, if they were to sell their stuff, they will get their money back, maybe even more so. I know a lot that have gotten more back than what they've put in now. If they wait, the demand is going to shrink and they're not going to be able to do it. So that is another piece of the story that goes into the plates and the equipment and all that other kind of stuff that is playing into the whole market supply with that now. I can't see these YouTube things. Okay, Elite Powerlifting Total have something to say. Elite Powerlifting Total and have. There's going to be a learning curve on all this. I haven't pulled sumo in 4 months. How should I go back into doing that? I'm assuming you're telling me that you haven't pulled sumo. This is YouTube, so I'm kind of going back and forth between Instagram and YouTube. Is what it is, yeah. If you haven't pulled at all, then you need to work back into the deadlifting normal. But if you've been pulling conventional and you haven't pulled sumo at all and you want to move back into it, it shouldn't be that hard of a thing to do. You just have to spend more time on your setup, making sure that the positioning is right at the start. Because a lot of times, and this is hard to say because I don't see you deadlifting. And if you look at the old technique teardowns that I did, you can see that there's a lot of variances based upon what I'm going to say on how somebody looks. So just get used to the positioning before you start pushing the weight up real hard. So keep the weight maybe under 60% until you're able to get your body in the position that it feels like your sumo is back on point, and then start taking it up from there. That shouldn't take long. It should only take maybe at most 3 or 4 deadlift sessions, especially if you're keeping the intensity under 60%, because you're going to be able to have a higher volume, and spend more time doing sets of 1 to 2 reps instead of the higher, because you'll be able to work the start position more times. For example, 8 sets of 1 gives you 8 sets to work the start position, where that's 8 reps. 2 sets of 4 is giving you 2. So you want to be a little bit cognizant of that. Okay, to the Instagram. Great podcast with you and Brian Ostra. Thank you. He was great to have it out. Have you looked into the learning curve and what point? I'm not too sure I understand. It's incorporate business methodology into. I'd like to answer that one, but I don't really know what you're asking. So if you can throw it out again. You saw a pair of 35-pound kettlebells for $200. Are you fucking kidding me? I understand, trust me, I understand supply and demand, but some stuff is just fucked up. Yeah, I agree. When things mellow out, they're not going to be able to give it away, especially if they're a gym owner. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about. So if they're, I said this in one of my earlier videos. You know, if they know that they're not going to be able to open back up, they need to start selling their shit fast. Only because they're going to be able to get their money back, and they're going to need that for whatever venture they're going to do next. All right, keep asking the questions there on Instagram. I'll come back to them. Would you deload every fourth week if you're running conjugate? This is a good question. I've answered this a few times. With conjugate, I have a reputation of not being a fan of deloads, but that's because I'm not a fan of putting deloads in a program that already has deloads inherently built into them. So that's why I'm not a fan of that. And the other thing is, the life has its way of building deloads. You know, a little fucking obvious right now, right? Life has a way of building deloads into training. I mean, everybody, for the most part, most people just witnessed a 2-month deload. So what are you going to do when you start training again? So say you spend all this time, you know, in this quarantine thing with this deload, and then you're going to get back to the gym, take maybe a month to kind of ramp things back up again. Then you're going to start training, and you think you need a deload every fucking fourth week. Are you serious? You just had fucking 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Anyhow, that's where my rants kind of come from that stuff. But and that's because when I hear things like that, that's telling me that the program doesn't have the deloads built in it to begin with, and that's where the problem falls. So if it's not a conjugate-based type program, there should be some type of deload built into it. If it's either through the core lifts or the main lifts or the accessories or supplementals, with a lot of programming, block, linear, and so forth, that's going to be programmed in across the board with each thing. When you're speaking conjugate, a lot of times with conjugate, let's break it out, make it simple. You got dynamic work, which kind of waves on its own little pendulum, and then max effort that waves on its own pendulum, supplemental, let's just say accessories that wave on their own little pendulum. Your deload can have, or your dynamic work can have its own deload built into it every fourth week. The max effort work could have its deload built into it every other week. You know, 1 week you might go a heavy single, the next week you may not do that, the next week you do. So that can have it built in there, and then the accessories are going to have it built in on however that's going to wave. If it's not, and everything's just progressing at one huge linear wave, then it's not conjugate. So does that make sense? I think where I have my issues with this, to be honest, now that I just talked this through, is I think to answer questions like that, I need to have more specific applications presented to be able to help the best, because it's a it's a very general question, because when I'm presented with a deload concept, the way I see that is two different ways. It's inherently built in to different structures of a program that are going to wave independent of each other, or it's built into a program that the whole structure waves in accordance to that. And any program that doesn't do one of those two, I don't even think it's a program. So that's where I think I have the struggle trying to answer things like that. Have I compiled data and analysis on what Elite FTS's learning curve is for each position? Do you mean in regards to staff? Still a little confused on that one. Okay. Opinion on the Mars bar. I have one here. It's a personal opinion, because I had to be completely transparent. I haven't used it a whole lot because it takes a little getting used to, and that's not a bad thing, because a yoke bar takes getting used to, and an angle press bar any bar takes getting used to. And what I've seen just through the several times that I've used it, I personally like it more for good mornings because of where the bar position is than I do for the squatting. Some of the problems that I see with that is the way that it sits in a monolift, a lot of people are kind of whacking their head on the top of the monolift. So, you know, your stance is kind of going to be restricted based upon that. So you're at least from what I'm seeing here is your stance is a little restricted based upon, if I go close, then I'm going to hit my head on the top of the monolith, and this is with all the monoliths that we have. You can walk it back, you know, so there's that option as well. So I have a reserved opinion right now where we'll see. It's an expensive bar, but I really don't care about that much, but I know the market does, which is one of the reasons why we haven't, you know, brought it in to be a distributor of that, because I don't think anybody's going to buy it for the price and the shipping that it is. And trust me, this is coming from somebody that we do not get good shipping rates. So I know that pain, and I know the pain of people complaining to me about our shipping rates. So there's certain things that people will still buy, you know, if the shipping is higher because you're a small business, and there's other things that they just won't. I don't see that as being something that people are going to buy with the price point and the shipping price with what you can do with the bar. But those factors can change. At least the base price can change with scale. So there's that, which helps. And there's the other factor coming from the guy that owns 300 bars. Whenever you this is why I have one, and I paid full price for the one we have. When you see a specialty bar that you think is cool, buy it. If you can afford to buy it, because a year or two, it may never exist again. And I can walk through the gym and show you dozens of bars that you'll never be able to buy again. And they came out, they were cool, and I learned over a period of time, because there used to be a lot of really cool specialty bars that 15, 20 years ago, I should have bought them, but I didn't have the money, so there's that, you know. So if I had the money, I would have bought them. Man, I wish I would have, because none of them are around anymore. And they're kind of like the specialty type bars, and it's one of the reasons why I like to sell specialty type bars, and we make a lot of them on demand for this reason, so we don't have to ever get rid of them. And anyhow, there's that. So if you like it and you think that you're going to like it and you can afford it, buy it. Buy it now, because companies, and they're a small business, just like a lot of people in the industry. There's a lot of big businesses in this industry, and you know they're going to be okay, but the smaller ones it's a small business, so just take that for they're going to have a hard time. So get it, you know, and go from there. So that's my thing on that. You know, I may buy another one just in case it never does come back again. At least I'll have two. So I'll have more on it later, I suppose. Best hypertrophy exercise for middle delts other than side raises. Okay, it's kind of hard to isolate your middle delt without working your other delts, but I know where you're going with this. Um, I do like side raises a lot, but something that John Meadows showed me that I like even more than that are the swings. So it's basically the same thing as a side raise, except it's very short motion and you just jam the reps. So reps are, 30, 40, 50, around that range. And for me, it works a lot better because I can't do the full range of motion on the side raise. But I've seen that have better results with people from a strength standpoint. I'm more concerned with strength than I am really the hypertrophy part. From the strength standpoint, and John's a big fan of it from the hypertrophy standpoint. So I would stick with the dumbbell swings. Yeah, I think you can find those they should be on our YouTube channel, and I definitely know they're on John's. All right, back over here. They got hit hard by the Arnold. How often should you change supplemental and accessory work outside of waiving the rep ranges? The golden rule or the general rule for supplemental and accessory work is change them when you can no longer increase the weight or reps. So because they're not big compound core type movements, you're going to be able to keep them in your training program for longer periods of time. So with that, those general program guidelines, such as if you can't increase the weight or reps, works very well because you're going to be able to get 3 or 4 sessions out of it, maybe a little bit more, and it depends how you put them in there. So if you train your bench or bench accessory work twice a week, you may do a supplemental exercise. Say it's Monday and Thursday are those training days. You may do that accessory exercise on Monday, Thursday, Monday, for a 3-day rotation, or you may go Monday, Monday, Monday for a 3-week rotation. When I personally try to put things in programs, I want to put them in there for 3 or 4 rotations. So that could be 2 weeks, Monday, Thursday, or it could be over a 4-week period of time. I haven't had luck with going a 4-week period of time if it's twice a week. Is one better than the other? After all these years, I really don't think so. I think it's more what the athlete is going to be more motivated to do, and what the coach may be more likely, how the coach wants to program it or likes to program it. I've not seen that make any difference. I do know that you're really starting to push it a little bit after 4. If it's a beginner, you can run it all the way out to 8. I mean, you can run it for a long time. Or if it's a very light accessory and one that is, not even being pushed that hard, side raises, front raises, that kind of stuff, those can run pretty much forever. But with what you're talking about, the other one, so that's how I'd run it that way. And then there's different ways to pattern that. You can just run it as a spike up, or you can run it, as a wave, up and down, or, I think the best way to, because I can't draw things right here, I got to figure that out. But if you look at the last band video I did on YouTube, there was graphs that we kind of put in there to show a few different ways to wave supplemental work, and it's kind of common sense, but you'll see what they are. But the thing with this is you don't have to wave every supplemental and accessory exactly the same way. So if you're going to use a step loading pattern for a supplemental exercise, you don't have to do that with all of them. You can, but I wouldn't. I would use different loading patterns for each one of them, and then kind of track it that way, because what you really want to do is, through most of your training, you're really just figuring shit out, what works for you and what doesn't, and then making notes or making mental notes of what does work and what you really like. If you can't determine what works and what doesn't work, if you don't know if you're getting stronger, not getting stronger, getting bigger, or whatever your goals are, if you don't know, then just go by what you liked best. So there's some indicator. So most of the training is going to be spent trying to figure out what you like and what works. Then when you figure out what those things are that work, note them someplace. And then a couple times a year, put together, 3 training blocks, or 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and just put in all this shit that works, and just throttle down really hard for that time period, and work on a monster peak, work on the best peak that you can pull off for the entire year. Then after you do that, pull back on it, and then go back to that experimenting type thing for another 6 months or whatever it's going to be, to determine what's going to go in that next, jam phase, or, whatever you want to call that. And, essentially this is what programming is. You can't think that it's possible to always string together these or whatever you want to call them, these peak jam phases, one after another. That's unrealistic to even think that it's possible to happen. But what you can do is put that focus into one, and then spend the rest of the year trying to figure out what to put in there. That doesn't mean the rest of the year you're not going to make progress. You are, but the focus is going to be more on what will work, when we put it all together to really push hard. Off season, in season is a way to think of it. Okay, let's get a couple more here. Is it okay to do a AMRAP after max effort work? I don't like it, but it's okay. You know, it depends on, that's the answer to everything, right? It depends. The reason I don't like it is it works very well. There's a lot of programs that are based upon that. So, but it has to be a controlled variable. So if you're going to put it in there and you're going to push that super, super hard, then you got to be very, very cognizant or very aware of what else you're going to push hard. Because if you push that hard and then you're going to do everything else in the training or everything else in the period of the week that's going to be to failure, you know, or like an AMRAP, then you're going to start running into, you know, accumulated, you're going to run into not being able to recover, you know, from the work that you're doing. And the goal of everything is to be able to recover from what you're doing. So the reason why I don't like it is because a lot of people will throw that in there, but then they still end up going one rep shy of failure or to, you know, momentary muscular failure on everything else in the training program. And then they end up overreaching because of that. Where if that wasn't in there, they could still do that stuff on all the other. So it's a trade off. So if you're going to put that in there, you got to dial back on some other things. So it's not that I inherently dislike it. I inherently dislike that people put it in there and then they don't adjust, is what I'm trying to say. They don't adjust for it being in there. What to do if you're, okay, this is, the question is kind of like what to do if you're unemployed, you know, out of business. I mean, it's a tough one because I don't know the situation because there's a lot of people unemployed. Here's what I can say. I'll just kind of back it off a little bit because everything's kind of gloom and doom. Is just because everybody's going through what we're going through, there's a lot of rules that still haven't changed, right? So there's a lot of things that have, and there's probably going to be a lot of things that are going to change moving forward. I think we're all okay with that. We all know that. You know, a lot of people don't know the rules. A lot of people are trying to figure out what the rules are going to be, and we're okay with that too. But some of the things that haven't changed is, in general, and I hate to say shit like this right now, especially when it's on a public forum, because I don't want to say anything that's going to make anybody feel bad because shit is already bad. But the general rules are still applying, and that is, you know, most people aren't going to do anything to try to fucking become better. It was that way before, it's been that way forever, and it's going to be that way during this, and it's going to be that way later. You know, that's just how most people are. And I hate to say it because, man, I feel really bad for a lot of people that are out there right now because, you know, this is to no fault of their own, you know, and I just leave that at that. But that aside, most people aren't going to do things to try to make themselves better. They're just going to wallow in pity and all this other kind of stuff. This is a time that if you own a business, even if your business is shut down, you need to figure out what the fuck you're going to do to move it forward, not just survive, but move it fucking forward and make it better because a lot of your competition is going to get wiped away. So are you, when you come out of this, are you going to be in a fucking position to be able to pick up and go forward? Or are you going to get your fucking doors blown off by the people that are like Clubber Lang training in a basement right now or jotting ideas in a basement right now for a business that they're going to start 6 months, a year from now, that's going to fucking destroy you because all you did is wallow in pity. Most people don't fucking, you know, push to try to become better. And now is when you have to push to become better more so than any other time. You know, I know business owners that are working 100 fucking hours a week. It's fucking Sunday and I'm doing live on 2 social media platforms by myself because I don't have anybody else to fucking do it right now because it's Sunday and the time it is. You know, you do whatever you got to fucking do to move forward and be better. Not just this isn't about surviving. This is about moving forward and being fucking better to get through all this stuff. And it's a choice that each person individually has. If you're unemployed, not employed, if your business is shut down, not shut down, even if your business is doing okay. Our business is doing okay. Our business is doing fine, but I can't guarantee it's going to be that way in 3 months or 4 months, because this economy thing is going to fucking hit every single business. I don't care who you are. If the business is doing well right now, or your job is secure right now, in 4 months, you're going to get kicked in the dick. It's going to fucking happen. So are you going to be ready for that? You're going to be ready to pivot, because that choice is yours. And that's what I'm saying is, if you take that opportunity to build on that right now, you should have been doing it fucking weeks ago. But right now, if you take that opportunity to build on it, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be fucking fine. You're going to be fine for the rest of the year. You're going to be fine for 10 more fucking years. But it's your choice if you're going to do it or not. It's nobody else's choice, and it's nobody else's fault. We can't control what's going on. You can't control what your governor is going to say. You can't control what your boss is going to do. You can't control any of that, but you can control you. Now, on the other side, if you're not that small business owner and you do still have a job and you're an employee, right now is your time to fucking shine. Because if all you're doing is the minimum required to keep your job, you're not going to have a fucking job. Bottom line. 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 months from now, whenever it's going to be, 2 weeks from now, you're not going to have a job. Because if red tape, if things have to be, condensed, and it will with everybody, you're going to be the first to be let go. So how valuable are you making yourself right now? Because if you're not, you may not have a job in 4 months. But the person who is in their basement right now hustling to be able to increase their skill set will. They'll have your job, because you're just sitting back, playing fucking Nintendo, chilling out and only doing the bare minimum because, hey, this is fucking cool. I don't have to work that hard right now because nothing's going on. This is no, I'll quit ranting. All I'm going to say is that there's an opportunity right now for, employees, business owners, everybody, to be able to decide for themselves where this is going to go and what they're going to do with that. That all aside, say and I'm more of a risk taker than most people. Let's say you're not the risk taker. That all aside, your happiness shouldn't be based upon all this other shit anyhow. So take that for what it's worth. I have an Instagram, I don't know where it was, Instagram TV, where I spoke about business and I talked about personal, your personal identity. Your identity can't be wrapped up in what your job is. If you're a business owner, that's what you do. It's not who you are. If you're a power lifter, it's what you do. It's not who you are, and all that. So this is a time to reflect on all that and to figure out who, and really, really define what that is, and then go forward from there. I'll go to another question. I can keep rambling about this all I want. Okay, here we go. Thought on the trap bar. Am I even still on over here? All right, okay, thought on the trap bar. Again, that's another thing I really don't like, but I have people use it. So let me explain from there. I like the deadlift better, because the deadlift it's not that hard to teach. So it is hard, I will say this, it is hard to correct lifters that have minor flaws in their deadlift technique that's already established and ingrained. That is hard. That's very hard. It is not hard to teach somebody how to deadlift. They essentially just pick a weight up. It's not that hard to teach that. So it's not any harder to teach that than it is to teach a trap bar deadlift. Okay, so and the reason why I like the deadlift better is it's going to work the posterior chain harder. In general, a trap bar is going to work the quads a little harder. And so from whatever is going to have the best carryover, I like the deadlift more than the trap bar. So why do I use a trap bar with people? I like to use the trap bar with younger athletes because they do a better job with the hip position. on the start, which allows it to become easier for me to teach the deadlift down the line when I get to that point where I have to make adjustments to their deadlift technique that I just told you was when things get hard because of that hip, action and the hip position at the very start. What you have to watch though with the trap bar with younger athletes is a barbell stops the hips from how far they can come through. You can't push your hips through a bar, right? Because the bar stops it. Where a trap bar you can, so you can the pelvis can shift too far forward, and that happens a lot with kids. So that's where there's pros and cons of every exercise. So you have to know what they are. So a lot of times you'll have coaches say, well, I don't want to have any athlete do the deadlift because they'll get hurt, when they really just don't know how to teach the deadlift. But let's just say that's true, that's the case. Well, if you're not watching what they're doing with their hips at the top of a trap bar, that's worse because the hips can shift through even more. I'm going to take one more question and then shut it down. Training with purpose. I think I saw that in there. I like that. That's a really cool statement. I think that's key. That every time your whole training program and what you're training for should have purpose. And keep in mind, this is coming from somebody that spent 20 some years competing. And I'm a person that if I don't have a defined purpose for my training, I don't train. It's hard, for me to train. And I love, I love to train once I'm doing it, but man, it's hard if there's not a purpose. So when I was younger and still competing, that purpose was very, very strong, because super strong. When I have a competitive mindset, so you remove that competitive mindset, and then that purpose changes a little bit, and it's harder to find that purpose that's in there. So when that's defined, and that's why I've done a lot of training challenges, like how lean can I get, where can my body fat go, how much muscle mass can I put on, because whatever that purpose is that I set up, it's going to take months, not weeks, months, 10, 12 months to be able to accomplish what I put out there, because that becomes a fire, right? It becomes it starts with a little spark of the idea. Then over a period of time, it goes from like a campfire into a bigger fire into a fucking inferno that burns through. And once it gets to that inferno level, for me personally, I can run that for about 3 months before I start self-destructing my entire life, because it starts to occupy everything. But I need that flame to be able to put purpose to my training. And once that spark ceases to be a spark and becomes not just the campfire, but becomes a bonfire, that's when the gains and the progress and everything, that's when they really start picking up. If I keep it at that little campfire and that's all it ever is, it's just spinning wheels. So that's the same with other people that I see with training. It's okay to keep it the little campfire if you're okay with whatever progress that's going to yield. That's a trade-off. But when there's more purpose behind what the training is for, what an objective is for, then that builds from there into that bonfire. I don't think you need to have it into a forest fire. It becomes very counterproductive. It's more of a competitive mindset. But at least get it into that bonfire type thing where it's burning. Then all of a sudden, the consistency takes care of itself. The intensity of training takes care of itself. The discipline takes care of itself. All those things take care of itself because the fire is so fucking strong to push it through. So if you back that down and say, I wish I had that fire, how do you get that fire? Well, you establish that through whatever your purpose is. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to shut this down. Hopefully this worked. We'll see. But thank you, and until next time.